Welcome back. Daytona 500 qualifying, single car qualifying is about to get underway. The Gorga Homers will go first, and then we'll have the top 30 and older points locked in. That'll go last. There's a handful of drivers that will not be qualifying in pole day, but will be taking part in the duels. First car to take to the track, Mitchell Collins. Alongside me for co-commentating for the Daytona 500, we have Dylan Schwallenberg in the booth.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here.
Now, for the Gorga Homer situation, all they want to do is be the fastest four of each other. Fastest four get locked into the Daytona 500 outright. Now, they'll still have to race their way into the Daytona 500 in the Gatorade Duels if they want to improve their starting position. If not, they'll start at the rear. But for some, this is their best chance, and they ought to take it. Single car qualifying. And as we do all the time during the years for Daytona 500 qualifying, the speed will be what we determine where everyone is before they get back to the start-finish line. 48-38. For Mitchell Collins, the first guy to take the track. We'll be monitoring the speeds going into turn 1 and turn 3, as that's going to be the best way to measure where everybody is going. Jack Hallec next on the racetrack for Spartan Motorsports.
Spartan, one of those teams that are coming into the Sony Cup Series trying to make a better effort than they did last year, at least as Hydra. But this is an up-and-coming team in the Hardy's National Series, and they signed on Jack Hallec, who won the last race of the Hardy season and got rewarded with a cup ride as a result of that. So,
yeah, Hallec was doing really well in the Hardy's National Series. He's had mixed runs in the Sony Cup Series, but this team really had a lot of ups and downs in the Cup Series. You know, they just want to be a part of the Sony Cup Series and just be in the races. The Daytona 500 is going to be an uphill climb for them, but this 74 car is high in the provisional chart, and they could possibly use a provisional to get into the Daytona 500. There's many ways to get in this Daytona 500 this year. Qualifying your way in, racing your way in, and then you have the provisionals. Mitchell Collins still the fastest. Hallec was not able to best him that lap.
Here comes Logan Cloud down here for Great Lakes Motorsports. Team who's been around for a couple of years and has had some decent runs when the races get to attrition, but still have to qualify their way into the Daytona 500 on speed.
Now, Logan's a journeyman driver. He's been racing for many other teams. His best ride over with Curtis Racing in the Hardy's National Series, and he's got a full-time gig for this race team this season, and this is actually the first time Great Lakes Motorsports, in their third year in the series, that they have a full-time driver behind the wheel. It's a rookie, but I think this could be a promising lineup. A young driver with a young team trying to make a name for themselves as he comes across the line. First Pontiac to come across. Third qualifier, and it's the top of the board for Logan Cloud out of 3 cars.
Here comes the Canadian Kyle Collins in that beautiful number 1 UPS Camaro, flying down here down the front stretch. This car, I'm going to predict it's going to be on provisional pole for a while. This is a CM racing car. These guys are always fast at Daytona, and they just won the shootout. So it's one of those things where this guy is probably going to be insanely fast on this lap.
CM Racing coming off the win last night with Eric DeMax. The Chevys looked very good. And Collins hoping to make the Daytona 500. He should be a real contender, and he could possibly get in on speed. He was 185 in a turn 1 and 188 in a turn 3.
186 coming out of turn number 4. He is hauling the mail down the front straightaway.
Quite literally.
Yeah. And he is going to provisional pole. Like I said, 48.068. Kyle Collins on the top of the board right now.
It's not as quick as I would have expected him from Kyle Collins, but he should be all right, I think. Hayden Kline next on the racetrack, another Spartan Motorsports car. Spartan bringing 4 cars to the Daytona 500. They'll only field 2 full-time cars, Hayden Kline being one of them, and he's actually the only full-time driver for Spartan in the Cup Series. Kline, a past champion. He's got the past champions provisional, but he is a ways down the past champions provisional. I think there's 3 past champions. You have Jesse Turner, Luke Martin, and then it's Hayden Kline. I think it's only those 3 that are Gorga homers with the past champions provisional. And with the way Luke Martin and team were kind of struggling in the Sony shootout, Kline desperately needs to try and make this race other than the past champions provisional, because Martin would get it over him if he had to use it.
Kline with a 48.6. He's 4th place. He's going to be one of those guys I'm honestly going to be watching in the duels, because he's an insanely good racer. And here comes another insanely good racer in Vince Freeze. Martin Motorsports and Coca-Cola Cherry here at Daytona, just trying to make it into the show. These guys have a plan, long-term plan to get to the top of the entire series.
Freeze just ran 186 in the turn 1. That's the fastest so far of anyone. And I'm a little surprised to see the Martin Motorsports car looking a little faster than the CM Racing Chevy. He was quicker by 1 mile an hour. And he's getting up to speed pretty well in a 189 in a turn 3.
Wow, these Fords are just so good at these plate tracks on a single car run, at least, and just in general on the straightaways anywhere. You saw it in 2021, and you're seeing it again in 2022 with the new regulations. So these guys, they're always going to be fast. Ford is always going to be quick. And Vince Freeze, pole. So far, 6th out of 56 with a 49.956. That was a lot of 6s.
And that's a first lap to get into the 47s. What a lap by Vince Freeze. Now RJ Bishop on the racetrack. This team just looking to make their debut into the Sony Cup Series. This is Sanders Performance Auto Sports, team owned by Lane Sanders. And RJ Bishop, this team is getting help from the Turn Performance Racing crew. So they should have a good engine under the hood, but the car, it's an older style car. And this team's hoping to pull a rabbit out of the hat. 188 in the corner.
That was pretty quick, honestly. I did not expect that out of the 87 so far. It's going to be flying out of turn number 4. Brand new team. Let's see where they end up.
RJ Bishop. He stepped in for Jesse Turner when Turner was suspended from the series in the 2020 finale. Had a dismal run in that finale. Not very quick compared to the others, but he'll have a good chance in the duels to try and race in.
Here's Anthony Marchesi, Rodriguez Racing Hardy's National Series champion, one of their younger drivers, and he's just looking to make it into the show for the 54 crew today.
Now, this 54 car made it in the show with Hannah Allen last year. Allen was super quick in the Daytona 500 last year with this car. This is a full-time gig now. 189, and you're halfway down the back straightaway as Marchese. 190.
Whoa. He almost hit 191 going into turn number 3. He is flying down here. This Toyota is very, very quick so far.
Now Marchese has no points from last season. That was not a full-time car, so their points did not transfer over. And so he's got to make it in, and he's going to do it on speed, I think. What a lap!
Whoa, 2/10 clear at anyone else I've seen so far. P1 for Anthony Marchesi.
That is a phenomenal lap by Anthony Marchesi. Allyson Rayne for Fitzwater Racing Team. This team is getting a good bit of help from the Fisher Motorsports team, but Fisher Motorsports has been struggling, to say the least, since the middle part of last season. And both Fitzwater and Fisher are going to be working together, collaborating what they can do to try and get their cars into the Daytona 500. Rayne, I don't think's ever made the Daytona 500.
Well, the good thing about, even if Fisher Motorsports isn't the best team on the grid right now, you know, always having a little bit of help is going to boost you a little bit further up the grid, especially with guys like Jordan Fisher and Zachary Fitzwater in your ear. And let's see what Allie comes to running at the line. She's going to run a 48.295 P5.
And that's 5th out of 9 cars so far, so it's not that bad of a lap. Hannah Allen, we talked about her earlier.
Hey, we were just talking about her. Here she is for Hydra. Or not Hydra, Spartan, excuse me. it's going to be hard to get used to. But Hannah Allen running basically the same paint scheme they ran last year for the 74 or 84, and looking pretty fast. I mean, she's got a Ford under her, and you know, those things have always had speed in the draft on the straightaways, anything really. But actually, never mind. I'm gonna eat my words right here. 187 into turn number 3. That's not the fastest we've seen so far.
Now, Spartan has kind of struggled a little bit with single car runs, but the duels, they could be what the team really needs. A lot of these guys know that it's going to be very hard to compete with the Rodriguez racing cars and CM racing cars that are in the Go Home qualifying, as Allen runs a little slow, but the duels are where a lot of these guys are going to want to be. Bobo Jones, affiliate teammate to Anthony Marchesi.
Yeah, he's on North Border Motorsports team that's been in the lower ranks of the FBRL for a little bit. Came into the Cup Series not too long ago and partnered up with Rodriguez Racing. And ever since then, I think Bobo Jones has been running for them since the Rodriguez partnership, and got a ride in the Hardy's National Series. Did insanely well for them, almost even got the whole entire thing.
Very close to winning the championship last season was Bobo. Bobo to the line. Good lap. That's a great lap for North Border Motorsports.
Wow, almost top of the board, a 10th off of his team or technical teammate Anthony Marchesi. And here's Daniel Bouchard. Interested to see how this Pontiac Trans Am gets along here.
Now this is basically the old Cloud9 racing car. Cloud9 kind of folded into what is the third Red Bull racing car. And with the new rule going into 2023 that teams will be having to downsize to at least a maximum of 2 cars. It could be a 1-car or 2-car teams, but teams can't be fielding more than 2 cars. And Red Bull Racing is going to be one of those that's going to have to downsize a little bit. And Bouchard going into the turn 3 at 189 miles an hour. Bouchard trying to make the fastest 4.
It's a shame that they're going to have to cut down to 2 cars, because I'm going to miss seeing this AlphaTauri scheme next year. Coming across the start-finish line, 84. Where is he going to be? P4.
4th best for Daniel Bouchard. That is just on the mark of where he needs to be. But with many other guys, especially like Blake Warren, coming up, you just don't know where that's going to place him, and is possibly going to have to make Bouchard have to race in the duels.
This is the first Mercedes we've seen on track, I believe, the whole entire session, so I'm very interested to see how their single-car speed is going to be. But the German outfit seems to really have their eggs in one basket here and thinks they're going to be pretty good this year.
Now, Mercedes and Pontiac really worked hard all of last season to be able to come into this season and compete.
190.
And Warren, I think he's trying to make his first ever Sony Cup Series start, especially his first Daytona 500 start. As Warren off turn 4, where is he going to end up with that Mercedes outfit for Cybertron Motorsports? 47.9, and that's 3rd best for Blake Warren.
Pretty good run for the Napa Truck Series regular. And here comes Kev Shearer,
the defending champion of the Hardy's National Series, trying to get this 93 Shade Yacou car into the show.
Yeah, Shade Yacou, I'm not sure if they have a partnership with anyone or not, but they had a pretty decent year in the Hardy's National Series, at least last year, with William Brock. And, you know, they showed flashes of potential of being one of the top teams in that series, and they're trying to bring that potential over here.
Now, just kind of like his teammate Kyle Collins, and I say teammate very loosely, but they are in a technical alliance, sort of like Anthony Marchesi and Bobo Jones, as they're very quick, the 54 and the 33, but the 1-car Kyle Collins and the 93 Kev Shearer, they were not able to hit 190 into turn 3, and that's not that good of a lap. We know they race really well, but in single-car runs, they're struggling right now. That's 7th best for Shearer out of 14.
Comes Austin Rogers. And to touch on what you said earlier, it's not really a bad thing to qualify too low because some of these guys they have their cars set up for race trim more than they do qualifying trim, so they can get through the duels way easier. So that could be the case for the 55 as well. He's not looking too trimmed out right now.
Now,
But we'll
Austin
see as he comes
Rodgers in
down
the
the straightaway.
55, he's 5th on the provisional charts. There's 12 guys that have a chance to use provisional for this race weekend. They're carrying over points from last season. And Rodgers is 55. He is 5th in line. So there's a chance that if a car or two in front of him in the provisional order makes the race by either racing in or qualifying in, Rodgers, even if he doesn't qualify in or race in, he could still get in by a provisional. And he's pretty slow out there right now. Out of 15, 12th best with a 48.3.
Not the best lap. Here comes Bob Burns, though, in the Onjack Toyota. Car looks pretty slick out there right now, I'm not going to lie.
Now, the 80, this car is the part-time car, but same thing as it was last year. The 80 car was making races more so than the 70 car, and the 70 is the full-time car. Bob Burns trying to make his first ever Daytona 500 start. Onjack really struggled to try and make the Daytona 500 last year, but with a lot of progress in the 2021 season, this team will come into this speed week swinging much more aggressively than what they were last season.
It's all about steady progression. These guys, they know how to win. They've won a Napa Truck Championship, and they have the facilities to go do what they need to do out here. And speaking of that, what did they run? They ran P11. Not the best time for Bobo Jones, or not Bobo Jones, Bob Burns, excuse me. But
oh, that's an
here's
error.
Amanda Evans.
65 car, Amanda Evans. This team for Red Stallion Racing, it's a rebranded team. We know Red Stallion Racing was on the grid many years ago, but then it stepped away, went down to the Hardee's National Series, and, well, Amanda and team brought back Red Stallion Racing to the Cup Series, and they did that last season. They've been attempting some races, but the 65 car has not made a Sony Cup Series race since this rebrand. And Amanda Evans is hoping that she can get the job done in the Gatorade duels, because right now on qualifying, it's not very quick. But
Oof, yeah, this car does not have a lot of power under it. Let's see what they run here. Yeah, 16th out of 17 so far. They didn't even hit 187 going into turn 3, so I expected that fully.
For that team going into speed weeks, I think they kind of knew what they were up against, but they should have a better chance with this package to try and stay with the pack and see what happens to try and make it in on the duels.
Here's a name I haven't seen in a little bit. Doug Locke for Gatlin Downey Incorporated. Hauling down here. The number 35. This guy,
man.
He's a journeyman.
Locke was so close to winning the Daytona 500 in 2019. A last lap pass in turn 3 by Chris Dodd to win his first ever Sony Cup Series race. Locke has been around in the garage area in the FBRL.
Let's see where he ends up.
Coming to the line, Locke 48.53.0. That is 15th out of 18 cars, which is 8/10 off of the fastest lap turn so far.
Here he is, SP3. He's going to take his first lap for Texan Motorsports. I'm excited about this guy coming back. I love SP3, and it's just always a good time when he's around. He's getting up there in age, but he's still always a good time.
Stephen Paul III always performs well with underfunded equipment. He's always done that in the series. He's able to pull off wins for underfunded teams, and while it's not underfunded, but it is an underdog team, Texan is in the Cup Series. 187 in the corner in the turn 3. Now in the Sony shootout, Stephen Paul III was in the shootout. Even though he finished dead last, he was in the lead pack, and sometimes that's all you need to be able to do in the duels. If you can hang in the lead pack, you have a chance to make the race. And that was hopeful for him, and what that team learned last night knowing they have a car that is able to stay in the lead pack. And that's going to be running a 48.49.
Like I said, some of these cars are set up more for race trim, and Pollard looks like he's got one of those that are set up more for race trim. That's why Eugene DeMax hired him, because he knows exactly what to do when he heads here.
Going back to Stephen Pollard III, he has raced his way into the Daytona 500 a lot for underfunded teams, and I expect him to give it hell on Thursday to try and make the race for that team. Lane Sanders, another Spartan Motorsports entry in the Scooby-Doo machine. The mystery machine, really.
Machine. Yeah, mystery machine's hauling down here in Daytona. Beautiful looking car. I remember this car from my early days, and it's cool to see it running around here on a stock car at Daytona. So let's see what Lane Sanders does when he crosses the start-finish line.
Looks like Lane needs to take a Scooby snack, because that scheme right now he's a little slow, but maybe that team will be able to do something in the duels. Not going to get in the race today.
Here comes Bobby Jones, Flipside Motorsports. First-year team so far. They didn't run any part-time races or anything last year. They just jumped right up the cut with Mercedes. Got a deal with CBM, and Bobby Jones liked what they heard and hopped onto the car immediately.
Now,
part-time running a few races.
Now, Bobby Jones, he's an affiliate teammate to Blake Warren, and Warren trying to see where he made a lap with a 47.91. So I expect Bobby to be pretty close to that. And Blake ran a pretty good lap, honestly.
Bobby hit 189 going into turn 3. It's faster than the past few cars we've seen, so it looks like he's got the speed to have a good lap, but we'll see what he actually runs here.
Coming across the line, 6th best for Bobby Jones. That's not going to be good enough to get in the day.
Still a decent lap regardless. And Cole Baker, another Mercedes, coming out here on the track. This is a gorgeous car, might I add. But
I've always loved
been
this
impressing
car.
in the lower series.
Now Baker, a previous pole winner at Daytona, not in the 500, but in the summer race.
Yeah, he's had some flashes of brilliance in the Sony Cup Series in his select starts, and same thing with the Hardy's National Series with a 4th-string team. He was able to pull together some really, really good finishes, and you know, I'm just excited for this guy to finally get his chance at CBM. This 99 team, I don't think they ran last year, did they? This is a first-year car, I think.
This is the old 79 car, I think. Well, it's actually a new car, because I think the 79 team is the 51 Flipside car, if I remember. I think this is a brand new outfit, the 99 team.
And P6 for them, beating out Bobby Jones, I believe, for that position, just barely, and Joseph Shrigley, this sharp-looking Spotify Pontiac. I gotta stop talking about how good these cars look.
They all look so good. Now, one thing I don't know if I've mentioned is top 4, obviously, of the Gorg Homers. They will qualify in today. They know they're in the race. They obviously can race their way in to make it in. But 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th of the Gorga Homers, they have a possibility of getting into the Daytona 500 today, even if you're not in the top 4. 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, like we mentioned. You know, if any of the top 4 for today's qualifying effort of the Gorga Homers decide that, you know, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to race my way in and improve my starting position, then the next guy in qualifying will get the spot. If 2 of the top 4 race their way in, that means 5th and 6th get in on speed. So it's not over for those guys that are just outside of the fastest 4.
It's not over for anybody that's in this qualifying session. I think as long as they can survive in the duels, they can make this race and go on and race in the 500, just like Dun LaPrade making his, I think, 2nd Sony Cup attempt for Texan Motorsports. He raced for CBM in the 79 at Charlotte, I believe, and he just got an opportunity ever since. Yeah, he ran like 20th, mid-pack something, and he had no experience, so
yeah,
got thrown right to the wolves and survived right there for Dun LaPrade.
Now, Joseph Shrigley was just the last car that we were talking about over. He got 3rd, and he's up there in speed, so Shrigley has a good chance to try and qualify in on speed. He's also high up in the provisional charts. We know Shrigley will be in through either a provisional or qualifying in or racing in some other way. And LaPrade for Texan Motorsports is 17th best out of 24.
Here comes Tib Foster for MER. This guy, he's been running for him for a little bit, if I can recall correctly, and MER really just had taken a liking to him and put him in a cup car for right now. So
now Tib, I would think he is the up-and-coming guy to try and replace Richard Johnson at that team. Richard's been there for a couple seasons now, and Richard's the old vet. Tib's been there for a long time, and he ran really well in the Talladega 2019 race, and he's had flashes of brilliance. He's been in the Hardee's National Series and the Truck Series for many races. Going to get his chance to try and race in the Daytona 500 with this big team.
There he is, P11, 48-1. He's not too far off. I think, this is one of those cars that are set up more for the race than anything. And here comes Jesse Turner and that number 17 car.
The defending champion. Now, Turner won the championship, and you may ask, how is Turner the defending champion and a Gorga homer in the very next season? Well, Turner Performance Racing and Team Velocity turned around a deal to try and get that Team Velocity car, which is Peter Onjack, later in qualifying, into the race. So Jesse Turner has Peter Onjack's points from last season, which was the 98 car. And now Onjack's in the race, and Turner has to get in on speed, which we know Turner is guaranteed to be in because he is the first guy of the past Champions Provisional, which I suspect this 17 car to be up there fighting for the pole. What is he going to get? Not quite, just off of Marchese. A 47.75.
If a TPR car can't even beat Marchese set down a heater. That is a really fast lap. Here comes Shade Eaves, raced for Roush family last year.
I'm very, very impressed with Marchese's lap. If Turner couldn't steal it away. Second best, and only 4 1/1000ths of a second off of Anthony Marchese's time. Shade Eaves for S3 Motorsports. Now, they have qualified their way in on speed before. They didn't do it last season. But Shade Eaves and S3 Motorsports, they got a pretty good Napa Truck Series team. And trying to improve their Hardee's National Series team and Sony Cup Series program. Still making 8 races. And going to be contending to try and earn that charter spot.
Across the line, there goes Shade Eaves, P11, 48.119.
Now, that lap will not be good enough at all to get in the Daytona 500 in any way on speed, but that is a good starting position compared to all the other Gorga homers so far. It's a little high up than most of them to have a better starting position in the duels. And here's James Ellison for Crossroads.
Owner driver, if I'm not mistaken, he's showing up to Daytona with this number 31 team trying to make it in. They've been in the Sony Cup Series before with a CM Alliance, but right now I think this is their own equipment, if I remember everything correctly. And here he comes. He's going 187 into turn number 3.
Now, Ellison's done really well. He's done well at the Super Speedway races, but the race trim, I think, is going to be where this 31 car is going to be.
I'm not sure if they still have that CM car that they ran. If they do, then that's very good news for them today. 21st, though, not going to have the speed to make it into the top 4, but either way, better than blowing up and not making a lap.
And that is all of the Gorga homers. There are the front 4 of the Gorga homers and the guys behind them. Marchese, Turner, Jones, and Shrigley know they're in on speed in the Gatorade duels. Blake Warren, Vince Freeze, Daniel Bouchard, and Cole Baker have an outside chance to still get in on speed, but they will not be guaranteed those starting positions on speed. But if one of those front 4 fastest cars were to race in on Thursday, they're the next 4 in line.
It's a big risk to go out there and go in a slightly more trimmed up setup for the race while they have Turner Performance and Rodriguez cars out there and go or go home. So it was a big risk for some of those guys to even go out there and do a lap. And Sam England about to finish his lap, see what he gets.
Now, he's the first of the locked-in guys. He knows he'll make the Daytona 500. It's just all about starting position and learning what you need to learn through the duels and try and win the Daytona 500. Now, this is Matt DeLeo for Breeding Enterprises. They got a car owner points from the 45. The 45 team, the Allen Family Racing team, went down from 3 cars to 2 cars, and they sold the 45's owner points to Breeding Enterprises, which they are aligned for this season. So this 88 car is basically the 45 from last season.
Yeah, and Breeding Enterprises, they had a very, very good year with Luke Martin in the Napa Truck Series, and are just trying to up their whole entire organization. And yeah, here's Matt DeLeo in the 88. He's running around here at Daytona in that Never Forget Starcom Racing tribute livery. He's going to come across the start-finish line and see what he gets.
21st out of 30 cars. That's actually not bad. But
hey, there you go.
But Matt DeLeo, that's a pretty good driver behind the wheel. He's won at Talladega for Horizon Group in the past, so we know he knows how to get it done on the super speedways. This is another guy that knows what he's doing. So close before, so many times to win the Daytona 500. Just never done it before. He's won basically everything you need to win in the Sony Cup Series, but the Daytona 500.
At this point, Richard knows a little bit too much about how to get around these racetracks. He's so experienced and he's just so good. That pace, you know, I don't think that pace is going to go away. I think we're going to still see Richard up at the front this year. You know, he could be older and people say he's out of his prime, but I think Richard's going to have a good year this year.
Age is definitely catching up with Richard, but man, in the Sony shootout last night, he was up there fighting for the win. He was 3 wide for the lead. And only a 10th off the fastest time. Only a 10th off. Richard Johnson. Who says he's too old? And
that's why I said Tibb might be set up more for the race, because Richard was flying there. Here's Sanford, the 83. This guy is very, very exciting right now, because coming into Red Bull with Pontiac, this could really go anywhere with England and Sanford.
The Pontiac boys and the Mercedes boys, you know, they have to be so excited. There's a new manufacturer for Mercedes coming in the sport, but Pontiac on its return, they want to be successful and they want to do well. And for the teams that are using that manufacturer, like you said, it could really go either way, and they're hoping for some big things this year.
Yeah, these guys, you know, they're just hoping for a step up in performance. They're trying to keep up with MER and be at the top of the entire FBRL, really, with them. And coming across the line, we'll see what speed they got. 189 at the line. P3 for Sanford. That's the third 7 so far. Seems to be one of the goal lines for these guys is to hit a 7, because they are not going any faster than that. Chris Dodd in the AFRT Dodge should be going pretty damn fast here right now.
Chris Dodd, like we mentioned earlier, is a Daytona 500 champion. Now, Dodd, he was in the Sony shootout, but wasn't really at the front contending for the race win. And that team seems like they're struggling a little bit. In preseason testing, they were struggling a little bit. And that team in the last half of last year didn't have a whole lot of speed, just barely blipped a 189. So not a pole speed at the time being.
Not what I expected out of AFRT at all, to be honest. I know you said they didn't have much speed, but I was hoping they were at least sandbagging a little bit. But coming across the start-finish line, we'll see where they end up. 16th.
16th out of 33 cars. And for a team that's won like 8 races in a season before, I don't think we really expect that kind of performance from Allen Family Racing Team. But this guy right here, Alex Benyako, CM Racing, I think we could expect some big things for him this year.
I expect to win. Simple. I'm just going to say right now, I expect at least one win from this guy this year. He's always been super fast. He just, I don't know, I guess he just didn't have the luck last year to pull off some victories and some really standout performances.
It was his first full-time season, 190 going into turn 3, so this is a pretty good lap, all things considering. His affiliate teammates, the 93 and the 1, they were not that quick, and maybe they knew they just were going to struggle compared to some of the top teams in the series and decided to get more prepared for the race. But whoa! P1!
Whoa! Alex Yacou.
What a lap! Yacou goes to the top of the board by 5/1000ths of a second.
I said it in turn 3. He looked really, really fast, and I think my eyes did not mistake what they were seeing on track because he was flying out there. And speaking of flying, DJ Curtis, he just hit 187 before turn 1. So DJ Curtis, he could have another fast car under him right now. DJ, he almost had a chance to win the title last year against Turner and Schwellenberg, but things just did not go his way. And the 19, he's just looking for another year of redemption.
Another 190 in a turn 3. Now Curtis, he was very quick in the Sony shootout. He kind of fell a little bit right there in the closing laps, but make no mistake, he was challenging to Max in those final 5 laps.
Oh, yeah, and we'll see what he gets across the line. He might hit 189. He does, and he's P4. Another 47.7.
A lot of guys really getting close to each other, trying to get the pole. And there's the guy that we were talking about earlier, Peter Onjack. He would have been a go-or-go-homer if points would have transferred over, but they were able to acquire the 17's points. And what better points to swap than the number 1 points from last season. Peter Onjack knows he's in the race, and for his first full-time season, and as a rookie going into 2022, I think Peter would be A-okay with wherever he finishes, as long as he finishes in the Daytona 500.
I don't think he has any expectations going into this entire season. I think Peter's just here to race and have fun, really.
And you know Peter will do just that. After many years of racing with Red Bull Racing, he has moved over to Ford and Team Velocity. 48-22-6. That's 20th out of 36 cars.
Ryan Acosta from Mace Enterprises. I really didn't expect this offseason move, but he ended up there, and here he is for the number 24 AutoZone Camaro.
Now, Mace Enterprises going to be shutting down at the end of the year. It's already been announced that. And for Ryan Acosta, got to think maybe he wouldn't have made that move if he knew it was going to be temporary. But this 24 is it's a legendary number, and the whole team, Mace Enterprises, is legendary. It's been around since the beginning, and they've won many, many races. And last year was the first time that team has ever went winless in a season. They didn't win it all last season. They've won in every season they had been involved in, at least for a full-time season. And Acosta basically racing the same car that Eric DeMax was in last season. Let's see where he ends up.
P10.
That's pretty good, honestly.
That was better than I expected.
That's better than where some other Chevy teams that have ended up. And that's 10th out of 37 cars. That's a pretty good run for Acosta.
Here he is, Matt Rod, number 9 Napa Auto Parts Camry. The cars he owns, they've been flying around here, I'm telling you. And I don't know if Matt Rod's got the same speed as the 54, but we'll see here. He looks pretty fast.
Now, this team, many, many years ago, was the old Martin Motorsports. And if you've been following the series over the years, and Rodriguez getting up to 190 going into turn 3, over the last handful of years, that team was Martin Motorsports and then transferred over midway through 2019 to Rodriguez Racing. So, in the past, this team has won many Daytona 500s.
Yeah, and Toyota, it just seems like they also have the raw speed coming into this speed week. So 47.8, this is a lot slower than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to get pole, honestly, but
still a 10th
Matt
off.
Rodriguez. Yeah, only a 10th off. I was about to say Dom Caps. Right here from Martin Motorsports. I believe he raced for Martin Motorsports before the sale, right?
Yeah, definitely. He had won a lot of races for that team between 2017 and 2018. And when that happened in 2019, Rodriguez took over the team and let Dom Capps go. And when Dom Capps was a free agent, he kind of went all over the place. He went and raced with Joseph Shrigley Racing at some point, joined back up with Martin again at another startup team. This is not the same Martin Motorsports that had won championships and battled for the title and won Daytona 500s, but Luke Martin has been steadily trying to build this team. And we talked about it with his teammate Vince Freeze on the track. They have a plan for the future, and they're excited about it.
Yeah, 13th with a 47.976 for Dom Capps. He's just trying to relive that magic, really, that he had with Martin Motorsports before, and James Shelley creating his own magic with Turner Performance as of lately. If we go by the 2021 season and before that, really, Shelley has just been doing an insanely good job for these guys. And I think he could be up there with Turner.
He's been a standout driver for that team. You know, for an organization that's been kind of known as Jesse Turner and Jake Bassinger winning all the races, James Shelley went into last year and was winning a ton of races. 190 in a turn 3. He was up
another fast car from Turner Performance. These guys have always got good plate racing cars, good mile-and-a-half cars. Just a good package in general, really. That's how they've won so many races and championships.
Shelley's won the Daytona 500 before. He wants to get another one to the line. That's pole position. Pole position for James Shelley.
47.720 P1 for the 71, and here comes the 97, another Turner Performance car. These guys, like I said, I think all of them are going to be fast and have a chance for pole. And 97 is no different. Jake Baskinger, one of the flagship drivers for this team. This is his retirement run, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep. It'll be Jake Baskinger's final season. It'll be also Nick Mace's final season. And I think there's someone else is also having a final season. There's a lot of people that are going to be saying goodbye after the end of this year. And with rumors going around about a next-gen car being announced for the Sony Cup Series, be a good time to hang it up before you learn something new and have to adapt to something else. Jake Bassinger, he's had a heck of a career, 20-plus wins, a championship, but he's never won the Daytona 500. He's hoping to do it in his final start.
P7.
47.80. Not a bad lap.
Not bad at all. I think that's something that team can be happy for. Decent starting spot for the duels as of right now. And here comes Jeff James. This team is aligned with MER.
Yeah.
And they just are trying to get up the grid. Joseph Shrigley really wants his team probably to be faster than him this season, if we're being honest.
Now, I mean, they're doing a good job by getting the drivers and aligning with the teams they need to. They got a good team they're aligned with, and they have a top driver, Jeff James. I mean, many years ago, it feels like it's been a while now that Jeff James was a championship caliber driver. It's been a while since he's won a race and a while since he's been a consistent front runner, but he is a very good driver. He's won the Daytona 500 before. A 47.93, 14th out of 42.
And with that alliance, you know, that's just going to help MER and Shrigley's team even more to get up to the front. Just an experienced driver's words and, you know, everything he knows is just going to help more and more. And Dylan Young, he's one of those as well he just kind of helps by being experienced. He's been here for a little bit and racing for Turner Performance.
Young's got a lot of experience.
Young's always been a pretty decent driver. He just he doesn't have the same raw pace as Turner and Baskinger. And no disrespect to Young, that's just it's hard to be a Turner and Baskinger, really.
That star power that is Turner and Bassinger that have always kicking in those amazing runs. Young's won a handful of races, but Young, it's been a while for him. He's season 10 Daytona 500 champion. He wants to win another one just like Shelley does. And at the line, he's just a little over a 10th off of his teammate's lap. 10th best.
Here comes Will Goss. Flipside Motorsports' main driver since 2019. almost won a Napa Truck Championship, ran Hardee's for a year, and had some pretty decent results, but it was mainly just helping a first-year team get afloat, and now they're here in the Sony Cup Series, and to be fair, probably in a pretty fast car and locked in for the first 5 races of the year.
Now, Will Goss, he's ran really well on the super speedway type tracks. I remember there back in 2020 when Yamp Motorsports ended up becoming Cybertron Motorsports midway through the season. Goss ended up racing in the 38 car at Talladega, and he ran pretty well that day, and they were all really quick.
Let's see where the Ohio native gets across the start-finish line. P23, 48.110, excuse me.
Right there about halfway through the field.
Not a bad lap at all. And Nick Mace coming across the start-finish line for the final time at Daytona for the 500 qualifying, at least. It's going to be sad to see him go again, but
now,
you know, Nick Mace, I think it's time. I think the return didn't go the way that it should have gone, and it just hasn't been the magic that he thinks that it should be right now.
In the last couple of races in 2019, when he announced that he was going to be stepping away after 2019, he ended up grabbing a win and put that win total to 36, the win record. 2020, he was all gone, but came back at the very end of 2020. He wrote off the last couple of races that it was the 2019 car. But for 2021, like you said, it just a very miserable year. Then he had that big injury at Pocono and just added on to it. 27th, that's actually a ways off of where his teammate Ryan Acosta is.
This is going to be an exciting car and driver combo this year. Dejan Weeks and Monster Energy Racing. I think these guys, you're going to see them a lot up at the front for sure. Because Dejan, he's got that drive to get up to the top. You know, he wanted to do it with Yant Motorsports and didn't quite work out. Tried doing it with CM. It didn't quite work out. And now he's trying to do it with MER. But it seems like this team and driver have some good symmetry.
Now, third time's the charm. Dejan came into his rookie year and was immediately, like, amazing from the word go. And it took him a while to get a win, but when he did, he just couldn't stop winning, it's felt like. Now, winning has came a little slower, but for this season, he's going to turn up the heat, it seems. Monster Energy Racing are hopeful that they'll make a title bid this year because they think they have a good car, and they do. They're 8th best.
And in the race, that means they're just going to be even better because Dejan is very, very good on these plate tracks. And John Arndt is as well, from what I remember correctly. He's pretty much up front at any plate track I've seen him at in any series.
Arndt was also in the shootout, and that team raced better than they've seemed in the qualifying. Now, Arndt, he kind of got up towards the front, but kind of faded at the end. He was a factor in trying to push people up there to the lead. Just didn't quite get up there to the lead. And going back to Dejan Weeks, that Monster Energy Racing car, they're usually a lot slower in a single line. So for him to be 8th, I'm very impressed with that.
So far, it looks like MER might be the fastest Dodge team because just looking at John Arndt, they just don't have the straightaway speed. The 30 hit 190 and the 43 hit 188, 189. So 23rd for John Arndt, a 48.049. Going to put him about halfway in the field.
I think Arndt, when it's all said and done, he'll put himself in position when it comes down to it. Jacob Hart's a 2-time Daytona 500 winner. He's won. I think he's one of the only few. I mean, Dom Capps is another one that could win for the 3rd time in the Daytona 500. And he was a late signing. We mentioned it in the Sony shootout to come and drive the 61 car full time. And I don't know, I'm curious to see how he does on any other track, but for Daytona and Talladega, we should expect Jacob to be a serious contender.
Yeah, Jacob's also another one of those drivers that just has like a book full of experience under his belt, and he just seems to always be in the right place at the right time when it comes down to having good luck. So Jacob, he could really help this team. You know, even though he wasn't really supposed to be here, he can help them a lot. He's going to be 18th, 47.973.
I think Jacob's going to be a good asset, mainly for Peter Onjack, too, being teammates with him. That's a good combo to learn and lean on. And this guy right here, the defending Daytona 500 champion, Cody Lamas.
He looked so fast in that shootout. I mean, I expect him to be on the front row or something because he could just sit out there for a little bit. And, yeah, the 48 and Curtis Racing, Chevy in general, really, but mainly Curtis Racing has looked really, really fast in race trim. So we'll see what Cody gets. Could hit 190 in turn 3. Yes, he is.
Now Cody in that 48 car. Cody in that 48 car. He'd been wanting the 48 for so long. Then when he finally got it, he won the Daytona 500. And, well, didn't really go as planned for the rest of the season. He had some ups and downs, but this team's hoping that ends up working in their favor. He's 11th out of the 48 or 49.
Race trim, that's what that is. Here comes Dylan Schwallenberg in the number 10 Rodriguez Racing Toyota Camry. Almost won the championship last year. And
now Schwallenberg got runner-up last season. It's crazy to think that because a lot of the season it was Turner and Curtis fighting for the title, but Curtis just had a whole lot of bad luck. And an engine failure in the final race just really put an exclamation point on Curtis's luck at the end of that year.
Yeah, but you know, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and Schwallenberg just kind of picked up all the pieces from Curtis's mistakes and got second place. He was a ways back from Turner, but
now with
at the end of the day,
with the way the point system is now, you know, Schwallenberg had the most top 10s last season, but he was over 100 points back to Turner. But with the point system way it is now, rewards consistency like that. 12th best for Dylan Schwallenberg. Can be probably a little disappointed with that. Marchese and Rodriguez is a little faster than Schwallenberg here.
I expect him to be really aggressive in the duels, and another guy I expect to be aggressive in the duels is 76 of Charlie Smith. He's I don't know. I haven't seen his name around too much, and if he has been, that's my bad for not noticing. But yeah, it just kind of had a ride lined up with Horizon Group.
Now, Charlie Smith is the definition of a journeyman driver. He goes wherever a ride is that needs him. Now, Charlie Smith, he's a veteran. He's been around for a while, but just has not been able to ever click off a win. He's a solid driver, but not a driver that has a whole lot of star power that gravitates a lot of the big teams. And with Horizon Group backing in Pontiac, it's going to be exciting to see what this guy can do. 28th.
New opportunity for him. He's P28. You know, that's Horizon Group. They were lacking a bit last year, and I think that's honestly an improvement already.
With 5 cars left to go, another Chevy out on the racetrack. It's the last of the CMs. It's Ryan Griffin making his debut for the team.
This beautiful number 3 Wrangler Chevy. It brings me back to 2011 Daytona. It was just a great experience. In 2010, excuse me. And you know, this driver, he had a rough year last year. He didn't even talk for half of the season. I don't believe. If not, it was more than half. So Ryan Griffin, he just did not want to be in that MER environment, and he came over to CM just for a new horizon.
Griffin really did not like last season. Ended up going winless last season. And we didn't really expect that from Ryan Griffin. His younger teammates were a little better than him. He's hoping to put all that bad shame to bed, really, and show how good of a driver he is again. 9th best. Should expect Ryan Griffin to be a factor on Sunday for the Daytona 500. James Sorfox behind the wheel for UER again.
UER, I mean, this could be a really good year for them with Silver Fox back there, and you know, Harple on the team as well. Just could be a really, really good year. They have a solid lineup, and I think with Mercedes, they can pull out together some really, really good results this year.
I'm not sure what happened with Silver Fox in the Sony shootout. I know he finished 23rd, and he was struggling with speed, but in preseason testing, it looked like UER was very quick and could be a threat to try and win races and run in the top 10, because Mercedes power, they're aligned heavily with Cybertron Motorsports, and see what he ends up.
Didn't look like the best lap, but he's going to come across the start-finish line 29th.
29th out of 53 cars. Expect Silver Fox to use his experience on the plate tracks to his advantage. And I think Silver Fox could be a contender on Sunday. Sean Harple, his teammate.
Yep, second half of that UER lineup, Harple, he's been super impressive ever since he came into the FBRL with the Hardy's National Series. And, you know, he's just been kind of trying to find his place in the FBRL and the Sony Cup Series because he knows he can be up there with the Schwallenbergs, the Weeks, the Turners, the Baskingers, all those guys. He just needs to be in the right place.
I think Harple has I think he's found a good place. You know, he's kind of been all over, it feels like. He won the Hardy's National Series Championship with Fuel Brothers back in 2016, and 16's been a long time. But it's been a while since he's won that title. He's able to click off a few wins here and there, and he's hoping he finally gets back to victory lane with United Emirates Racing. 20th out of 54 with a 47.9.
Not terrible, not terrible. Better than his teammate. And Zayden Davidson, this is a guy I'm really excited about this year.
What a year he had, man.
He's been so fast the past year or so that I didn't even see it coming when he started running up at the front, but he's there.
Davidson got let go from MER and went to JSR, and then JSR let him go. And then Cybertron Motorsports picked him up, let Eric Burton have an early retirement. And Davidson, from the first race with them, immediately consistent really well, and won at Michigan and got his first ever Sony Cup Series win. We have Davidson and Eric DeMax left, and that is the last of the cars for qualifying to set the field. If he doesn't top James Shelley, Shelley will be at least on the front row, and Davidson at the line, a 47.89. That's actually a lot slower than I would have predicted for Davidson. 17th, 47.89 though. Then the last car.
Eric DeMax coming around here in the number 0. This guy, he likes Daytona. He really likes Daytona. And CM also really likes Daytona. So I think they came here with the full-on intention of dominating and winning everything this speed week. So
he
yeah,
won
Eric
the Sony
DeMax
shootout, and he is so quick. He's already looking really quick. Could be a contender to steal the pole from Shelley.
I can already see the uptick in speed. Let's see if he can get to 190 by turn 3. That's really the benchmark, and he can.
Man, he got to 190 pretty early, too. Eric DeMax won the Sony shootout. He's trying to win the Sony pole. Or the Tag Heuer pole.
Barely scrubbed off speed. Let's see where he gets.
To the line, Eric DeMax trying to get the Daytona 500 pole. Oh, it's not quite. James Shelley.
Top 5 run.
Shelley has won the Daytona 500 pole.